And hello, everybody. Welcome to Two Guys Talking Sports. I'm Pat McDonald with Choice 102 and Radigan Media. He's Tim Birney with the Sports Reports. Welcome to episode 6 of Two Guys Talking Sports. We got a good one today.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to talk to Patton Taylor, the coach at Owego Free Academy, football coach.
Yeah, we had a great conversation with Patton. You'll hear that in just a couple minutes. In today's episode, we're going to kind of focus on Section 4, the New York side of things. And we'll start with New York Week 0, they call it up there. And we had the big doubleheader over at Memorial Stadium.
It's quite an afternoon. Nice crowds. All they talked about was rain all week. And the sun was out. Blue skies when they kicked off at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, and the first game was Tioga-Maryvale. We weren't sure what to expect out of the Tioga Tigers. You obviously lose an undefeated squad, right? Caden Bellis, the quarterback, never lost a game for Coach Aiello. So replacing him with Jaden Duncanson took a little bit of time, but they found their groove there and rolled to a 27-6 win.
Looked like old school Tioga football, only threw the ball twice. I don't know if Coach Aiello was showing anything. They play Windsor and Schenectady for the next 2 weeks. But they were able to line the ball up and run it effectively all game. They lost their starting tailback, Logan Bellis, in the second quarter and replaced him with Shane Platukas. And he came in the first carry of the second half, went 58 yards for a touchdown. Ended up with 102 yards, I think. So they've got some weapons.
Seems like for the past 15 years, we always talk about when one standout running back graduates, Tioga's got like 8 more on the wings, right? And but it all starts up front. Coach McCauley and the crew do a great job with that offensive line. Doesn't matter if they're the biggest offensive line, they know what they're doing, and the timing always seems to be the key for Tioga.
Yeah, it's the timing, and they know what they're doing. And this year they happen to be pretty big. So that's a good combination for them. Yeah, they dominated up front, and they really wore Maryvale down as the game went on. You could see Maryvale starting to drag a little bit, and as soon as Maryvale started showing the signs of where Tioga's run game just started to pound them right into the ground.
It's going to be interesting to see, like you said, where this offense goes, how it progresses. With Jaden Duncanson, I think we're going to see a lot more option and him keeping the ball going forward.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's a dynamic. You saw that on the touchdown run he had. He only carried the ball 3 times, I think, but one of them was a 14-yard touchdown run where he got hit just past the line of scrimmage, spun off that, avoided the tackler at the 7 or 8 yard line, and got in the end zone for a touchdown. So, I think they got couple big bruising backs. Jake Brown, 225, 30 pounds, and fast. He looked a little apprehensive his first couple carries. He hadn't played since he was a freshman. But by the second half, when he had some hits in the game, he was running hard and low. And his touchdown run, he hit 2 guys at the goal line when they tried to tackle him. I think one of them still laying in the end zone up there. He just ran right over the one.
And you said during our broadcast here on Choice 102, he was the goalie on the soccer team last year.
Last 2 years.
Last 2 years, and now comes over to play football. So the rich get richer a little bit on the Tioga football side of things. So a 27-6 win for Tioga over Maryvale in Week 0. And we'll talk after our interview with Patton Taylor about their Week 1 matchup with Windsor, right? Coming up on Friday night. Let's talk about the Wolverines, another team that's had to replace basically, most of their skill position guys other than Watson and Keithley. But, new quarterback. We weren't sure what to expect. And early on, I'm sure they would all agree that it wasn't great. Obviously Ben Shaw struggled early on, but he found his groove just like Tioga did. Waverly started putting an offense together second half.
He was 2 for 11 for 12 yards and an interception and did not look good. And then he threw a little bubble screen or a little hit into the flats for 0 yards. But the next ball he threw down the middle, Keithley comes up with it on a nice catch, but a beautiful throw.
Yeah.
And then he made a couple incredible moves, 66-yard run. So, goes from 2 for 11, completes his last 5 passes, and those last 4 passes he completed for 116 yards and a touchdown. So he showed in the last 12 minutes of that football game what he's capable of, and it's kind of scary if you're, especially with the ability that Keithley, Watson, and some of those other kids have.
That pass to Keithley was beautiful over the middle, just lofted in the perfect spot. And then Watson, a circus catch in the end zone there, and but a great pass as well from Ben Shaw there. And Waverly won, we should mention, 24-3 over Clymer Sherman, Panama. Waverly, just like kind of in Tioga over Maryvale. They wore down CSP late. CSP loses their, best receiver, third quarter, I think it was, on the interception by Fletcher Good there. Fletcher Good, nice debut for the Wolverines there, running
Cooper Robinson too.
And Cooper Robinson. But talk about that Waverly defense. Obviously, they were able to control one of the best quarterbacks in the state of New York.
Yeah, that might be small school anyway. BCD might be the best passing team in the state. He came in, Tate Catanese came in at last year, 65% of his passes he completed, 25 touchdowns, 6 picks. I think he was 15 of 32 or 33 for 150 yards, and he got picked 3 times, and a 4th interception got called back. So Waverly put tremendous pressure on him. He threw more than half his passes. He was on the move. He didn't have, after the first possession when they drove downfield, or I guess it was their second possession, and Hogan Shaw had to pick at the goal line. From that point on, he never had a chance to throw with his feet set, and he was moving the whole game.
Yeah, shout out to Matthias Wells, Troy Beeman, and some others there up on that line. They really dominated the trenches there for Coach Miller, and obviously some stuff to work on.
Yeah, they didn't run the ball very well.
No,
for a team that we thought would be physical and dominant up front, they CSP did a really nice job of blowing up the running game. So I think I don't know if it's a concern. I think Coach Miller knows what he's got up front. But, again, I thought they'd be much more effective run the ball. And I think he did too. After the game, he said he was surprised that they weren't able to run the ball. So,
and the only first score of the game was the big kick return for Watson right there for Waverly, and 92 yards to the house there. It went off the hands of Good, I think, at first, and then Watson scooped it up and went all the way for the score. And that was it early on. That was the only scoring they had for
7-3.
7-3 at half, and then they finally get the offense going. So I think plenty to work on. But Ben Shaw, you talked during our broadcast that the confidence that Coach Miller and his crew had in Ben to keep throwing the ball after they struggled early shows you how much confidence they have in him as a kid.
Well, I think it was a matter of just, hey, this is our guy, and we're either going to sink or swim. And Coach Miller went to what he thought he should call, regardless of how Ben had been throwing the ball, and Ben came through with some big throws.
I think Ben's going to learn if you throw it to Watson and Keithley enough times, good stuff's going to happen eventually, right? So a big win for the Wolverines, 24-3 to kick off their Class C title defense over a Class D powerhouse in Clymer, Sherman, Panama. After our interview coming up with Coach Patton Taylor, we're getting to Waverly's Week 1 matchup, which is coming up Thursday night against the Binghamton squad. But right now we're going to throw it to our interview with Owego Free Academy Riverhawks football coach Patton Taylor. And welcome back to Two Guys Talking Sports. Joining us now is Owego Free Academy head football coach Patton Taylor. How are we doing tonight, Coach?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Coach, your second year this year, which means last year was your first. Obviously, taking over a varsity program, there's a lot of things involved that people don't realize. What did you learn last year to help you do a better job this season?
The biggest thing for me initially last year, before even getting to the season, was just the, off-field preparation, inventory, making sure where all the equipment is, making sure everything's getting sent back on time for reconditioning. If you asked me 5 years ago, that'd be the head coach at Owego for football. Being a former baseball guy myself, I'd probably tell you you're crazy. Funny how things work out, but, a lot of the off-field kind of clerical work I didn't realize at first how much goes into it, and it's a lot. So heading into this season, it's definitely more organized. So I'm not as stressed out about it.
Obviously a Tioga guy, but you've been at Owego for a few years now, right? Just taking over football last year, but kind of talk about your history, how you got involved with Owego Free Academy, and how becoming a head football coach became an option.
Excuse me. So, my prior job, I was a strength and conditioning coach at Vestal High School. I was working for Lord Sports Medicine. The opportunity popped up at Owego. I live 6 minutes away from the school. My wife also took a job earlier the summer that I decided to take a job at Owego. She works at AES. So it just made sense for us to, and it was just a good family move. So initially I had no intention of coaching. Mr. Green and Mr. Farrell are kind of like, well, there's an open modified A position. We'd like you to fill in there. Like, all right. Initially, all I wanted to do was be a strength and conditioning coach. So at that point, they kind of sparked a series of events. This current senior class, right out of the gate when they were freshmen, they really formed, the foundation that they have today. They started coming in the weight room. They're in there every day. They just couldn't get enough of it. So when the head coach position opened up, in a way, I kind of saw that as a way as like I can help these guys succeed in other ways outside the weight room.
You played obviously at Tioga, quite a program there. What'd you bring with you from Tioga that you're trying to instill in this program?
The big difference from last year to this year, especially up front, is just our physicality. I think we're a much more physical team this year. Every Tioga team I played for and I've seen, whether it's back when my father was coaching Will Cook, Piccini, now Aiello, it was always a very physical brand of football. That's when I first came in. That was kind of like priority number one. Like we need to get bigger, faster, stronger, and more physical, and really develop the line.
And obviously, being a baseball guy, what's that transition been like? You played football in high school, right? Kind of your career was cut short a little bit. Kicked your senior year, right? You were a kicker on the team. Couldn't do much else. But what's that baseball mindset? How's that transition to football?
I ran into some concussion issues later on in my high school career, and that's when that kind of set me on my path with baseball. And during my time in college, two completely different sports, but at the college level, whether it's D1, D2, D3, really, going from Tioga to Penn State, that's a big culture shock, big change. So the attention to detail, whether it was in the weight room, PFPs, ground ball work, whatever it is, the attention to detail was of the utmost importance. When I took this job over, we do our best to break everything down to the smallest detail when we go to teach techniques or plays or whatever.
I mean, we'll get back to football in a second, but you got to be pretty happy with Penn State's new baseball coach doing a great job down there.
Gambino, a lot to be excited about there. Last time they made the Big Ten tournament, I think that was my sophomore year. Maybe one other time in there, but no, that was an exciting run that they went on this year.
Well, let's get back to football here. This senior class of yours, good numbers. Most of these kids have started this be the third year they've been starting. Your thoughts on this group?
It's a fantastic group. We only have 6 captains, but there are so many other leaders on this team. For some of these guys, like Evan English, he's been on varsity since his freshman year. And what I love about this group is they've faced adversity over the past few years. And, just reflecting back on last year, we kind of got punched in the mouth by ME, by Watkins Glen. So heading into week 3, week 4, we're still kind of searching for our identity. In this current group of kids, they really, it was like a light bulb moment. So just their ability to battle through adversity is fantastic. And I think it's because they've been playing together for so long. They're a very close-knit group of kids.
I was on the WEBO morning show a while back talking to Matt Lewis and Lou Sauerbry, and I said the big thing about football, maybe this group of kids, they won and learned how to win big games in baseball and other sports, right? So how much does that translate? Just knowing how to win close games and like having that mindset of finishing the job.
Yeah, I mean, we got multiple sport athletes. Bobby Struble, he went to States last year. Our baseball team had a fantastic season last year. You find success in other sports. They're learning and finding ways to win in other sports. That definitely carries over to the football program.
Well, you don't often see a kid step over from the soccer team and do much else other than kick. But Joseph Paladino really came in and made an impact for you last year on both sides of the football.
No, absolutely. And if you didn't know who Joe Paladino was, you would have never guessed that this is only his second year playing football. He has made an immediate impact. Last year, each game you could see the progress and how quickly he was learning. I think it was our Waverly game is where he finally kind of figured out how to lower a shoulder pad and hit someone. I thought it was a very physical game from our team across the board, but with him specifically, it was like, there's that aha moment. Now, Joe's a fantastic player on both sides of the ball, and he'll be a big key to our season this year.
Yeah, that Waverly game was the one game I got to see last year and had on the call there on WBO and here on Choice 102. That was obviously a really good Waverly team, and you guys hung in there. It was a sloppy game. Obviously, the weather wasn't great, and might have helped you out a little bit to slow down that Waverly offense. But you guys played really physical that day, and it seemed like that might have been a turning point for you. You played really well going forward.
Yeah, I mean, they say weather is a great equalizer in football. Oh well, but it is what it is. That's still got to play the game, right? But no, that's we knew that we were underdogs going into that game. We didn't shy away from them. We approached that game very physically, I thought, and discipline. I thought our discipline, for the most part, was on display that game. A couple things work out differently for us. Maybe the game ends up differently. I don't know. Again, that's a very, very good Waverly team that Miller had last year. He did a great job with them. They did a great job battling through adversity as well. They were working through some injuries on their side. But overall, it was a very fun game, despite being on the losing side of it.
I think obviously when you talk about Class B football in Section 4, the conversation kind of starts with ME. And, they bring back a lot in skill positions. They graduate a couple studs up front. I know you got a long way to go this season before you run into them. But talk a little bit about that program and, the challenge that the Riverhawks have in front of them to beat that ME team.
Yeah, I mean, they have a next man up mentality over there. You see that in other places like Waverly, Tioga, Forks. So there's something to be learned from that. If you really dig into those programs, it's not how big the playbook is. It's not how crazy the schemes are. It really boils down to fundamentals and just execution. And I think for us, reflecting back on last year to where we're at right now, fundamentally, I think we're much, much better. We've obviously talked about physicality, but I think our attention to detail is also much better than where we were at last year.
You got plenty of time to think about main end. Well, let's talk about your others, the schedule going leading up to that. Obviously, starting out at UE, always a tough game up there. Horseheads, Oneonta, West Hill. I mean, that's a gauntlet right there off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, that's right now the message is who cares what's after this week right now. The only game that matters is UE. They're big, they're athletic. They can hurt you through the air. Their quarterback's a pretty shifty kid. They can hurt you in a lot of ways. So again, what we've been preaching all week is we have to be fundamentally sound and disciplined, because once we start freelancing, that's when we're going to find ourselves in trouble, which I thought we've been defensively doing a really good job of this week.
I guess my last question for you is, Jason Miller coached his son Peyton, You're coaching your brother. What kind of challenges does that bring to you as a coach?
Oh, don't forget, there's another Coach Taylor on staff too. So it's it's a blast being able to coach my brother and also coach alongside my father. He's obviously a great mentor. He takes me to school every day. Just brings a different perspective. He really likes digging back to the old Jim Haggerty playbooks. That's so it's a lot of fun. Some stuff will may or may not be in our playbook here and there. But coaching the younger brother, when he listens, it's fun.
And what's the support been like from the Owego community? Obviously, a close community up there, and they seem to love their Riverhawks. They don't like saying that name yet, but they love their team, right? Up there in Owego.
Yeah, the crowd split on that, but let's focus on the community here. No, the support's been great. I think we're there's a lot of excitement around the program right now. At the parent meeting, I made sure to thank the parents for getting kids to the summer optional workouts, because without them, the turnout that we had over the summer, the last 2 summers, really isn't possible. We're in the range of 45 to 55 kids almost every single day for the last 2 summers. So, to me, it seems like the support is there. And parents are doing their part, getting their kids to these practices. Those summer practices are huge heading into preseason. Because when you get to day 1 of preseason, there's not a whole lot of reteaching that you have to do. You can kind of hit the ground running. And again, that's I thank my parents all the time for that, because they're the ones who got their kids there.
My last question: when you talk goals with this team, what do you talk about?
Well, right now is 1-0. Obviously, the big goal is always to go after that section title. A lot of other things have to happen first. Do we have the ability to do that? I believe so, but a lot of things have to happen first.
All right, that's Owego Riverhawks head football coach Patton Taylor. Patton, thanks for joining us here on Two Guys Talking Sports.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey, Patton, thank you very much.
Of course, no problem.
And welcome back to Two Guys Talking Sports. We want to thank Owego coach Patton Taylor for stopping by and joining us here over Zoom. We had a great interview with him, so good luck to the Riverhawks this season. Let's talk Riverhawks football right now, Tim. They open up. They didn't play in week 0, so their first game is week 1, more traditional, and they're going to be on the road at Union Endicott.
Yeah, the Tigers coming off a 49-14 loss to Maine Endwell. Maine Endwell still the team to beat in Class B. If Owego's going to do it, it's going to be this year with that big senior class that's got a lot of experience. Emmy brings back a ton of skill players. Lost a couple big linemen up front, but they'll still be the team to beat.
That Owego ME game's not until November 1st, last week of the regular season. So Owego, like Coach Taylor there said, 1-0 is the mantra, and they got to start it at Union Endicott. Then they go to Horsehead, so a couple road trips right away.
Horsehead's got some good buzz going around right now. They coming off a 55-0 win at Watertown, or at Cortland against Watertown. I don't know what Watertown's got, but a lot of positive vibes going around Horsehead's football team. And we'll get a look at them early in the season. I think week 2, which will be the third game of the year. They
Next
play
week,
Waverly,
yeah.
So
we get to see Binghamton for the first time, as they're going to be at Memorial Stadium in Waverly this Thursday night. Coach Miller, when we talked to him, didn't know much about Binghamton, hadn't done a lot of film study. I'm sure he's brushed up on his Binghamton film.
I'm sure he and Coach Shaw are knee deep in it. So, Binghamton's I've seen him. I didn't see him this year, but in the past I see him in scrimmages most of the time. And normally they've got athletes, and they're just not very good up front. And I don't know if that's the same as it's going to be this year, but that's a pretty good MO for them. Waverly, not only is Waverly really good up front, Waverly's got a game under their belt.
Yeah, Binghamton does not. They were coming off a 1-9 season. Binghamton last year struggling, so obviously for a big school, haven't been able to find success on the football field.
Been a long time.
Yeah, which is surprising, obviously. A ton of athletes up there. But yeah, we'll see what they can do against the Wolverines team, like you said, that's now gained some confidence after kind of starting a new season without Joey Tommaso for the first time in 5 years, and then your new quarterback. But I think you're going to see Waverly put it together a little bit more Thursday night. So a rare Thursday night game, I think. I know it's all about, it stinks because it's because of lack of refs. You can't do it all Friday nights anymore.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes it's cool to have a Thursday night game.
I agree. And the other thing is I'll have to go digging a little bit, but in the 50 years I've been paying attention, Binghamton Waverly football, I don't know if they haven't played in those 50 years. So I'd have to, you'd probably have to go back into the 40s, 50s, maybe early 60s to see a Waverly Binghamton matchup.
I have the Waverly program somewhere around here. I know they have in the program, they always have the list of all-time records versus everybody. It's really a cool thing they do in that Waverly program. The Tioga Tigers, we talked about them earlier. Big win over Maryvale. Now they get to host Windsor on Friday night. What do we know about Windsor?
Very good skill players. They placed well in a lot of the 7-on-7s over the summer, which tells you that they've got some good skill kids. What do they have up front? I don't know. But we know what Tioga's got up front. And again, Tioga's got a game under their belt. So, they've worked all those opening game jitters and opening game mistakes out of their system. Can they take advantage of Windsor, who's got those jitters and who's going to make those first game mistakes? It'll be interesting because I think Tioga was a little susceptible to the forward pass on Saturday, and Maryville just didn't take advantage of it. Does Tioga tighten things up a little bit? With a game under their belt, do these kids in the secondary have a little better feel of what they're supposed to be doing? We'll see. It'll be interesting.
I'm sure Clymer Sherman Panama was watching that first game, Tioga game, and thinking, oh, if they're going to struggle against the pass, we might be all right against them. But we'll see what CSP does down the road. That's obviously both teams got to get to the state semis, right, to
Correct.
Have that matchup. Long way to go there. Spencer Burnett and Candor coming off a loss. They're going to play at Dryden.
Yeah, last week I think I said Lansing was coming back from 8-man football. Well, they were 8-man football a couple years ago, and last year they played in the independent division in Section 4, along with Dryden, who came up to back into the regular Section 4, so they're postseason eligible. Lansing's always had a good football program. At one point, they were one of the best sections or best small schools in the section. So I wasn't shocked.
It's 38-15 there.
Yeah, and Speck's got the first-year coach. They're gonna have some learning curves involved there. Plus, they lost their best player. This week with Dryden, I think that's a little more of an even matchup. Dryden really has struggled the last decade up there, so we'll see. I think Coach Wayman and the Eagles could bounce back from week 1.
And then sticking over that way, Newark Valley coming off a loss to Mount Markham. They're going to be on Saturday on the road up at Odessa Montour High School taking on the Schuyler Storm.
Yeah, Newark Valley, I was a little surprised at how badly Newark Valley lost. I think it was 45-8. But Mount Markham was a Section 3 playoff team last year and had I think they were 7-4. So a quality opponent, and two of their losses came to Dullsville, who won Section 3 title. So I think Newark Valley's bouncing back. Watkins Glen, or Schuyler, they graduated a lot of kids. And Newark Valley's got a game under their belt. That week 0 has been pretty beneficial for teams in the past when they're playing somebody that hasn't played yet.
Horsehead's a big win up at Cortland against Watertown, 55-0. They're going to take on Norwich at home, so good chance for them to go 2-0. Not sure what Norwich brings back this year. Yeah,
Norwich has been a little bit down in the last few years. And Horseheads, like I said earlier, a lot of positive buzz around the Blue Raiders this year. I think they're a team to watch in the big schools race Section 4.
And some other ones up in the Elmira area. Elmira hosts St. Peter's. Corning is hosting Edison Career and Technology, and then Edison is at Wellsville. So some games there, and most of those, other than Horseheads, I think everybody's starting this week up in
Correct.
Elmira area.
The only team that had it. So. Yeah, and Elmira's got Amir Williams, one of the best players in Section 4 when he's playing. He's had some injury problems the last couple of years, but I don't know anything about St. Peter's. I don't even know where they're from. And then Edison Tech has always been solid, but Corning's Mike Johnson does a great job up there. They had a little bit of a down year for them last year. I expect them to bounce back a little bit this year.
And Edison at Wellsville, I'm not sure we'll see. Eight-man football.
Eight-man football. Wellsville's been pretty solid program up there. Edison is struggled. It's good to see them getting the numbers up there. There's been a little bit of talk about them getting back into the 11-man ranks. We'll see how that works out for them, but they need to win a few football games. They've gotten better numbers, and so let's see some results out of them, hopefully.
That's going to do it here for episode 6 of Two Guys Talking Sports. Next episode, we're going to talk NTL football and then all sports on both sides of the border. And we want to welcome to the podcast Jim Lister, J. Lister, LLC, and Lenders Assistance as a sponsor here for Two Guys Talking Sports. If your business or organization wants to sponsor, just get a hold of Tim or I. If you want to get a hold of Jim and have him buy you a car, sell your car, you can get a hold of him at jim.lister@yahoo.com or give him a call, 607-857-2036, and you can see him up on the screen right now, all that information right there.
Also, we'd like to ask anybody out there listening, please subscribe. Tell your friends about the podcast. Have them subscribe. It'll help us in the long run.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for episode 6. We'll talk to you on episode 7 of Two Guys Talking Sports.